Cindy was born July the 15th, 1958, and on December the 24th, 1958, we were told that Cindy was blind and deaf and mentally retarded, and that we should place her in a residential facility. And my response was that they didn't know what they were talking about, because I knew that when I dropped a cookie sheet, Cindy would jerk, and I knew that when we drove at night, she would lift her head back and follow the lights. So I knew, so then I decided that maybe they were wrong. Who knew what they were wrong about? And so a very unhappy, aggressive mother left the room. When we lived in Columbus, Indiana, they ran an ad in the paper for people to sign their children up for kindergarten. And so I took Cindy to enroll her in kindergarten. And I was told by the principal of the school that they didn't serve children like Cindy. I told you before, I was a feisty mother, and I wanted them to say the word. And he wouldn't. But when I went home, he called me, and he said, it takes 13 children for us to be able to start a class for handicapped kids. And I said, okay, so if I find 13 kids, you'll have a class. And he said, yes. So I went on a trade show where young mothers listened all the time, where they could get cheap furniture and babysitters and all this kind of stuff. And I said to the people, I am looking for handicapped children. Would you please give me a call? And I had 33 calls. But the day after I compiled my list and everything, we were transferred to Indianapolis. And I didn't have the nerve to call the school and tell them we weren't going to come back. So I just kind of snuck out of town. And I don't know if they started classes then or what, you know. I started looking for a school, and I went to every one of the school corporations in Marion County. And I decided that I had applied to Noble, and their facility was not what I wanted. Their facilities were not good for Cindy. There were steps everywhere, and the parking lot wasn't paved. To be honest with you, it wasn't what I really wanted. I wanted her in public school, so I decided Washington Township Schools would be the easiest school to strong-arm to take Cindy, because we had a dual diagnosis. We had physical and mental, and we kind of needed both, but that wasn't done. So they agreed to take her on a trial basis, but I had to drive her. And I remember it was December the 5th, and they called me, the principal of the school, and he called me to tell me to come in, and I was ready to fight, because I just knew that he was going to tell me this wasn't working out. But when I got to his office, there was a beautiful little red tricycle, and he wanted to know if we would pay for the adaptive things so that Cindy could be taught to ride a tricycle. So we knew that we had her in, and that we were going to be okay, and that she would be okay. And so she went to school there till she was 18. They would have kept her 3 years longer, but I didn't like the way they trained the older handicapped kids. They didn't teach them to think for themselves. And so I asked for a letter of exclusion and put her in the workshop at Noble out on Tibb Street. So Cindy went there until we had an executive director that was really ahead of his time, and we didn't like him because he was ahead of his time, and it was change, and we were afraid as parents. And they started talking about doing away with the workshop and integrating handicapped kids into the public. And Don and I personally sent all of the parents a letter objecting to have a big meeting to fight this. And after we had the meeting, the next morning I called and I said, okay, find her a job. And that's just exactly, if you think this is work, you're the professional, you find her a job. And about 2 weeks later, they call me, and Cindy went on a job, and she worked there for 20+ years. And it just went away when it was being outsourced to Plainfield. And so she has successfully worked in the community for 20+ years. And it was the way for Cindy to go. Cindy, it was the most wonderful opportunity for Cindy, and I will tell you that there are other mothers that had children the same age as Cindy, and they were afraid to let their kids go out in the community. And my statement to those mothers was, you don't have the right to deny them the opportunity to try this. And several kids did go out because of Cindy.